Hello, my name is Leo. I'm Carlo. And this is our outreach project on methods for better sleep. The circadian rhythm is a near 24-hour rhythm, which is intrinsic, applying to all biological organisms. Every biological organism has a roughly 24-hour circadian rhythm. In all humans, the rhythms are originating from the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Without it, we wouldn't have a rhythm. Circadian rhythms are crucial because they allow us to anticipate environmental changes and synchronize our organs with the natural clock. Before waking up in the morning, our bodies are conditioned to prepare the heart, kidneys, and liver for activity. Jet lag actually occurs because our circadian rhythm becomes misaligned with the 24-hour day. During this period, people tend to develop insomnia, sleepiness, and a bad mood. A misaligned rhythm leads to immobility, irregular sleep, and eating disorders, which contribute to those symptoms. So how do circadian rhythms influence sleep? The story comes with a two-process model. The first process is the homeostatic, and the second is the circadian. The homeostatic process is an appetitive process that drives sleep debt back to an equilibrium state. This is to say that the longer someone stays awake, the more tired they get, and once a certain threshold is reached, they will feel very tired. Meanwhile, the circadian process is a cyclic, independent drive for wake. Around nighttime, the drive to wake is small, and it increases drastically in the morning. Together, these processes create a consolidated sense of wake. However, at a certain point, homeostatic pressure to sleep will overwhelm the circadian drive to stay awake. The influence of these counterpart processes is why morning is the time to wake up and why nighttime is the time to sleep. Something students do that throws a wrench in that routine is an all-nighter. When people pull all-nighters, there's a certain point when people hit walls, and they absolutely need to sleep. This happens around 4 to 5 a.m. for most people. However, as they keep pushing, at around sunrise, they get a second wind, and sleep doesn't seem all that imperative anymore. This isn't just a psychological concept. People are actively experiencing a shift in the circadian drive. In the morning, the drive to wake is suddenly much higher. Studies have actually shown that after 40 hours of sleep deprivation, people act more alert and aware than after 22 hours of sleep deprivation, though this effect falls off enormously after the 40-hour mark. It's obviously not stable to pull all-nighters. The effects are inconsistent and mostly damaging. To avoid these consequences, it's important to understand how the stages of sleep work in order to understand how to get the most out of sleep. The brain operates in 3 stages: awake, non-REM sleep, and REM sleep. By observing brain waves, muscle movement, and eye movement, we can determine which stage of sleep we are actually in. There are 4 of these stages, 3 of these being non-REM, and the last being REM sleep, or dreaming sleep. Stage 1 of non-REM sleep is light sleep. This is when people are drifting from the awake state to the deep sleep phase. The feeling of light sleep is a maintenance of consciousness, where it feels as though one is still awake and thinking. This stage does not last past 10 minutes. In stage 2 of non-REM sleep, the body temperature and heart rate drop. Stage 2 is distinguishable because of the presence of sleep spindles and K complexes. Sleep spindles are short bursts of neuronal firing in the brain, which help with long-term memory preservation. K complexes are wider wavelengths that aim to relax the body with strong stimuli, also aiding memory preservation. This stage lasts around 20 minutes. Stage 3 of non-REM is the deepest state of sleep. Muscles begin to relax, breathing increases, and the brain signals delta waves, which are slow waves encouraging an even deeper state of relaxation. In this stage, the body is less responsive to noises and outside distractions. Lastly is stage 4, REM sleep. It occurs in the last third of the night, making up 25% of sleep time. Dreams happen in this phase due to the brain's increased activity. The eyes are also more active, moving back and forth like the namesake, rapid eye movement sleep. What's important to note is that the duration of our sleep is not cut into 4 neat sections. Instead, the sleep cycle works on an interval system, which begins with light sleep and then goes from stage 2 to 3, and finally to REM. From REM, we enter stage 2, and the cycle repeats itself until the last third of the night, wherein REM is most predominant. Keeping all that in mind, we can look at stable models of sleeping. One of these models is the siesta, or midday napping. With a siesta, people can get up in the morning earlier and effectively divide their wake into two different periods rather than one gradual decrease throughout the day. Another stable model is the split night, which was historically implemented in the Middle Ages. For this method, people slept at sundown and woke up in the middle of the night. They would then spend a few hours awake and go back to sleep at sunrise. Both of these models effectively make compromises with the circadian and homeostatic processes to afford different times of productivity and sleep. An interesting but unstable sleep model is the Uberman, which involves 6 to 8 20-minute naps throughout the day. This method does not work effectively because too much effort goes into these naps, and they are too short to ensure proper intervals for sleep cycles. However, the Uberman potentially increases creativity by shattering the divide between sleep and wake. Unstable sleep, or lack thereof, can be very catastrophic. Drowsiness is red alert. Being in sleep debt means that we are liable to enter light sleep at any moment while we are still awake. Drowsiness is incredibly dangerous because it can occur in the middle of everyday activities. While most people think of dozing off in class, the same can happen while operating vehicles, riding bikes, swimming in pools, in the kitchen, and more. While drowsiness is a naturally occurring process, there are a number of common sleep disorders which also impede our daily and nightly activities.
The first one being insomnia. Insomnia itself is a symptom. It is a problem of falling asleep and or staying asleep during the night, leading to impairment during the daytime. However, as these symptoms become more and more recurrent, the problem can develop from a symptom and into a disorder. The first category is acute insomnia, a stage of insomnia that has recurring symptoms, but has not fully developed into the chronic stage. It is also referred to as short-term insomnia. The next category is chronic insomnia disorder, a stage in which insomnia symptoms occur at least 3 times per week over a period of 3 months or greater. Insomnia has been attributed to a decrease in a patient's quality of life and productivity. It is also a major risk factor for major depression and anxiety. A key trait that insomniacs share is that they tend to refer to sleep as a task, one that they are very unwilling and unexcited to do so. The second sleep disorder is obstructive sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea is characterized by the body's repeatedly starting one's breathing during sleep as airways are blocked. This causes the body to wake up to clear the airway before quickly returning back to sleep. This happens multiple times per night, inhibiting your body's ability to achieve REM sleep. This results in problems in daytime function, similar in a way to those who may have not slept at all. Drowsiness is red alert. Obstructive sleep apnea has a number of factors that can cause it, one being age, gender, ethnicity, and other factors such as medications, tobacco, and alcohol, to name a few more. Snoring is a sign of obstructive sleep apnea, but it's not necessarily indicative of the disorder. Obstructive sleep apnea is treatable. CPAP machines can maintain the airway while you sleep, and facial surgery can be made to open the airway if done young. On to a few misconceptions about sleep. The first being sleep debt. The body each has its own individual sleep requirement, which is around 8 hours. Sleeping for less than this requirement will accumulate sleep debt over time, as well as accumulating sleep interest. Because of the sleep interest, you cannot pay back, for example, 5 hours of sleep deprivation with an extra 5 hours of sleep. You need to sleep a bit more to account for sleep debt and interest. Short-term sleep debt is manageable, but long-term sleep debt is very hard to pay back. However, paying back debt over time has been attributed to greater functionality and cognitive ability. Another misconception is sleep duration. The body itself does not sleep in one full sitting. The body periodically wakes up during the night and moves around every 90 minutes to move around. This is to prevent bed sores. This is so brief that you will not remember doing any of it. Because this happens every 90 minutes, it also means that you end up having multiple REM periods during your sleep, each one with its own dream, though it can be hard to remember all. REM sleep only accounts for a third of your total sleep time, and it usually happens near the end. You get little to no REM sleep if you sleep too little. Another misconception is snoring. Snoring itself is not necessarily bad, and it's not necessarily indicative of a sleep disorder. Snoring itself means that there is turbulence in your airflow, but this could also be found in allergies, colds, or even a broken nose. It is very common as well as inheritable. If your parents snore, it is likely you will snore as well. And lastly are caffeine naps. Also known as nappuccino, is the consumption of caffeine just prior to taking a nap. It works by compounding both the relief from the nap on top of the caffeine boost to give your body a quick energy boost. This is real. It can give you a last-minute boost and after a long day. However, it requires that you fall asleep prior to the effects of caffeine kicking in. Otherwise, you just have a caffeine high.
Thank you. Please leave any questions in the comments for us to answer.